Since my last video blog, rarely have I seen a change in the market quite so dramatic. The first half was extraordinarily good for sellers and not quite so good for buyers. We saw not a lot of stock and huge demand, and guess what happens then? Prices go up exponentially. Since then, we've seen an increase in property, available property, and this is the catalyst for this market. If you have more property, then demand is satiated and prices stop rocketing. Well, that's exactly what's happened. We have 35% more property in the market now than we had this time last year. People have more choice. It's a much calmer market. Asking prices have certainly softened. I don't think prices have come down. I don't think they will come down, but they've certainly softened. And our clients, the sellers of these properties, are being much more realistic. They're not thinking they can get a jackpot price for everything that's on the market. They're being more realistic. The higher end of the market has seen more stock available, which is good. It has certainly been affected by the 7% stamp duty, but having said that, people have got their head around that now and they're starting to pay it, and we've seen some good results in that end of the market. However, we have the spectre of mansion tax now. My view is that this is a punitive tax on exactly the wrong sort of people. People who've worked their whole lives to afford to live in a certain place, and quite frankly now they're being priced out of their homes in central London. It can't be right. The proposal unduly penalises London and the South East. London produces 22% of the UK's GDP. It is madness to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And quite frankly, for people wanting to come to London to live and work, to put them off at this stage in the economic cycle is complete madness. I think it's iniquitous, I think it's wrong, I think it harms the very people this country should be attracting. Speaking as someone that's been involved in central London property for the last 30 years, policies such as the mansion tax and other populist wealth taxes do no justice to us as a nation. We want wealth creators to come here. We want entrepreneurs to come here to create wealth and jobs for our country. Why on earth would we alienate those people? The third quarter was pretty much dominated by the mortgage market review, which basically put the market into a bottleneck. People couldn't find the mortgages they needed, and the onerous conditions set by the banks made getting a mortgage nigh on impossible for a while. They were literally asked how much money they needed to buy lunch, and it got crazy. I think both the banks and the brokers are getting their heads around it now, and the banks are starting to lend again. Quite frankly, for a bank not to lend money is like a restaurant not serving food. You don't make any money. And therefore, I think the banks have got their heads around it and are getting back into properly lending money now. Our brokers, Rose Capital Partners, are telling me about some extraordinary deals. 10-year deals fixed, 5-year deals fixed, and at rates, well, they weren't around even 3 or 4 months ago. So I see that as very positive for the sales market. We've seen the idea of an interest rate rise recede. We obviously have issues in Europe, problems in the European Union, and this has meant that we think that the Bank of England base rate will be kept at 0.5% for certainly the next 6 months and probably more. I think it'll be mid to end of next year before that rises. So again, very positive news for the medium term for the property market. So whilst it was undoubtedly a tough market for sales in the third quarter of the year, lettings had a great market. There's increased demand. Employment in London is at an all-time high. Corporate demand especially was exceptional, and that really paints a very good picture, a very healthy picture for the London economy. We saw rents rise for the first time for many years. Prime central London rose around about 5%, and some areas rose up to 9%. So again, this is a healthy market, and one I think is going to carry on. So what's going to happen for the rest of 2014 and into 2015? Well, already we've seen not huge amounts of buyers in the market, but good buyers. Buyers at this time of year are astute, they're clever, they understand what they're looking for, and they're prepared to make decisions. They can see actually that there's plenty of stock available and not huge competition for it. This will definitely change, as it always does, in the first half of next year, starting pretty swiftly in January. We always see a busy start to January, and the 4th, 5th and 6th people get back from their Christmas holidays. They've all made a decision and they're moving. So that is always a positive time of year. However, obviously the elephant in the room this year or next year is the election. What's going to happen? Well, your guess is as good as mine. However, what I think is going to happen is that people will get on with their lives. It won't be hugely busy, but there'll be people out there buying and selling and renting. Depending what happens in May, either way, I think we'll see a boost to the London market. Why? Because of lack of uncertainty. And whether it's a Labour government, a coalition government or a Conservative government, we at least know where we are. And therefore people will get on with their lives and start transacting again, buying, selling and renting. So whilst I don't see prices going up dramatically next year, I see between 3 and 5%, probably 5, in total for next year as a sensible guesstimate of where we see prices in 2015.